Welcome back to the second half of the Bobby Dupre Show, and I want to introduce my sidekick here in case we have some newcomers watching the program for a change, for the first time maybe, Andrew Guitro.
Good morning. They loaned me from a different show to help me.
What about this camp meeting that you took a picture of, Mr. Mark, our
show that
producer,
poster, if you
that
can.
poster?
That is.
They're having a big club meeting at the Global House of Praise Christian Refuge Center in Port Barre, Louisiana, and that's the Reverend Bobby Gradney is the pastor there. Kate McVeigh Ministries is going to be in Port Barre at 7 p.m. on June 30th. That's a Thursday night. She hails from Warren, Michigan. God wants to favor you. And if you have any questions, you could call the ministry house at 585-0341. And I'm sure you can either speak to the Reverend Bobby or his wife.
And that's on Pacific Street, or as we know, the people from Port Barre call it the OG track, the little road that goes to the elementary and the football stadium.
That is correct. So a big evening planned on June 30th on a Thursday night.
Now, last week we talked about James Arness passing away, Marshall Dillon, and I said his brother was on Mission Impossible and all those type of shows back in the 60s and 70s. Peter Graves was the name I could not remember. Peter Graves is James Arness's brother, and when you look at both of them, you can see they look like each other. And I got calls from James Doge, who teaches in Krotz Springs, and also Dale Terrio, our friend that we've talked about, helped him get a shower chair and a wheelchair, I think, at one time as well.
Right.
So thank you guys. It's amazing when people watch, and when we skip a name or think about something, I get the emails and the calls.
Somebody's listening. Right. That's correct. Mr. Randolph Darjon passed away. He was a young man, I think age 65, and it's strange. I had not seen Mr. Darjon in quite a few years. We ran across each other, visited just recently. So stays in my memory that I had just seen him. A person who passed away and was extremely well known in Acadiana was Mr. Don Shetler. And of course, when you think of the Shetler name, you think of automobile dealerships.
Sure.
He handled, and I'll name the different vehicle brands that he was an agent for, and products included Chrysler, Plymouth, Dodge, Lincoln, Mercury, Oldsmobile, Jeep, Buick, Nissan, Ford, Volkswagen, and Chevrolet. So when you say automobile, the Don Shetler name was well known.
And that Crowley area is where most people I know that dealt with him.
That's correct.
Right,
he had dealerships in Crowley, Lake Charles, and Sulphur at different times. And as well as he was known in the automobile business, the people in the Crowley area knew him for his generosity. He was very charitable in trying to make people feel good. He decorated his home beautifully, and he set up for Christmas and set up a big tent, and he would treat the kids to hot dogs, cold drinks, popcorn, and just I just had to mention some of these things. You could see the generosity. Just reading the obituary, you can see all the good and the reputation that he left behind for his children to go forward.
Very good. The Knights of Columbus are
Never had a chance to meet him myself, but I felt like I've always known him.
Knights of Columbus Council 1173 are having a pull boy and chip sale at Sunday, June 26th, 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. over at the KC Hall on North Main Street, right next to Roy Motors here in town. If you want to buy some tickets at $5 a piece, it's the chip and the pull boy. Call John Miller 942-2911 or Ken Thibodeau 942-2736.
We spoke about the Flag Day on Tuesday, but there's also an event taking place in Opelousas on Friday afternoon around 5:30, and that's at the Opelousas Elks Lodge, and that would be on North Union Street, right next to Bordelon Ford, and across from Artigo Chiropractic Center. It'll be about 5:30. They're going to have free drinks and hot dogs. Probably the fire department will be there. They're usually there. And there's going to be a short ceremony, and an ROTC group, and Lindsay Lee, who's our head man at the Elks Lodge here in Opelousas, thinks that they're from Alexandria, Louisiana. They're going to be there. And so if you missed out on something Tuesday, and the public is invited, you don't have to be an elk to come, just come by and visit and watch the ceremony. And anytime there's a ceremony and Lindsay Lee has something to do with it,
It'll be nice.
it'll be nice. I can guarantee you. Another person who passed away and I didn't get to visit, I was called by one of my cousins, and I can't think of who called me now, to tell me that Miss Elva Swallow, J.Y. Swallow's wife, at age 85 had died, and I apologize to the family and friends over in the Ville Platte area. I used to be with those people so often. J.Y. was one of my first horse trainers when I first got into the thoroughbred racing industry, and we had some wonderful times. My deepest sympathies to the family and friends, and sorry that I missed out.
How about some photos, Mark? While we're knocking out some of the Flag Day stuff, we'll hit this one too. The Woodmen of the World Lodge here in Opelousas, that's Lodge 47, gave a flag to the Port Barre Knights of Columbus, Council 3496 in commemoration of Flag Day. And in the picture, you can see Miss Barbara Thibodeau, wife of Ken Thibodeau, that comes from the Woodmen of the World Lodge. You know, they've got men and women that are all members of the same lodge, presenting it to Dale Artigue, the Grand Knight over there at the Knights of Columbus, and Kenneth Marks, the financial secretary of the KC Council there in Port Barre. And those two guys both come to retreat with us every year.
That is correct.
And let me show some more photos we got here. How about this? You and I talk about Baby Jack all the time with the Cerebral Palsy Clinic. Baby Jack is getting a little bit of walking done. He's 7. And starting to stand up a little bit.
They've got to be happy.
I mean, it's incredible. And we want to remind you, every year when we talk about the Cerebral Palsy Clinic here in Opelousas and what kind of great things that they do, don't think you're helping with a walk or an arm movement. Talk about life. I mean, this helps.
Look at the braces he has on both legs.
Exactly. They
to
help
assist
him try to walk and
and
try
that's
to hold
what
himself
therapists are able to do when they're given the child at the proper time, when they're small, while they're young. They can help them develop some strength in those little legs that are crippled.
Exactly. So we want to congratulate them on Baby Jack standing. And we've got, you and I've got this note too. It's one of our sponsors here over at the Thrifty Way here in town, Carl's Thrifty Way. They're doing a health screening coming up on June 28th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can get your basic cholesterol and glucose screening for free.
And take advantage of it, please.
Well,
and give them the time.
It's 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. That's June 28th over here in Opelousas. You can go by and get that done. Then if you want to get some other tests.
No appointments necessary.
That's right.
Results in 5 minutes.
They can do a full-blown test from thyroid, hemoglobin. There's small fees involved with that. There are other things that they can test while you're there. They can talk to you about it, things that you're concerned about. They can do all this type of testing. That's the big thing that we pushed about Carl's Thrift Away every week as one of our sponsors is. Don't forget, they're not doctors now. It's a drugstore. But there are a lot of questions that sometimes you want to ask, and sometimes when you run through that doctor's office, you don't get the time to really sit down and ask.
I did that last week with Carl.
Exactly. Ask me, this medicine, why, my legs feel a little bit sore when I take this medicine. I don't feel quite, am I supposed to drink with this? Am I supposed to drive with it? All kind of questions that you always wonder about with your medications, Carl's Thrift Away can help you out with. And they can compound multiple medicines together, make it easy for you to take with a great gift shop, great gift wrapping and monogramming as well, Carl's Thrift Away.
Dylan James Arroyo, and
Yes,
I think
sir.
he went by Dylan, was, it kind of looks like he was murdered. And a young kid, age 9. While I didn't know him or the mama, I do know the grandfather. We call him Spike Morgan. Mm-hmm. And, that family must really be having a hard time. This kid was beaten severely and brought in as an accident, but the ER doctor staff, they noticed right away that you don't fall off of a chair or stool or out of bed and get from your toes all the way to your skull. Black and blue, and unfortunately the young child died, and our very deepest of sympathies. Spike, I got to knowing Spike through the old cars, and he loves the hot rod racing cars, and I met him through Bo, Wayne Doucette, all the gang there, Mr. Warren Oakley, all of those fellas. I'm sure they're all going to be at this funeral, which will take place on Thursday. Mm-hmm. Our deepest sympathies.
A couple more photos. We got a sunset. That's a rising east set in the west. That's the west. That's definitely a sunset right off of Heather Drive here in Opelousas. And that's not very far from the Health and Wellness Center here in Opelousas and talking about the Health and Wellness Center with LHC Group. Got some photos of some of the ladies from there. That's LHC Group's Miss Candace Castillo-Dago with St. Landry Home Care, Teresa Fontenot with St. Landry Extended Care Hospital, and Miss Paula Mills with Louisiana Hospice and Palliative Care, all housed right there on Heather Drive. And they're with Rob Perillo, the meteorologist with KATC TV3. They went to the Triad in Port Barre, you know, the sheriff puts on to help promote helping the seniors in our parish. And they were talking about hurricane awareness. And you can see all the ladies with LHC dressed for the hurricane. They got their slickers on and their rubber boots on, and Rob there smiling with 3 pretty ladies. So LHC Group, all your home health care needs. Of course, they're very active in the community with charity type work and community type work, but don't forget about them for the beds, the oxygen equipment, the therapists, the nursing in your home. Louisiana Healthcare Group, all about helping people.
We had several deaths that took place, and I'm probably going to miss one or more, but I do want to mention that Mr. Ray Nolan, age 67, passed away very, I guess you could say suddenly. I think he had maybe been having some little issues, but nothing that had him in the hospital. He was preparing to have his bi-monthly elk meeting. He was the exalted ruler, the leader of the Opelousas Elks Lodge. He was getting ready, dressing up, and he told his wife Dottie that he kind of felt bad. Well, the next thing you know, he's having a stroke, and then he had a massive heart attack after that and died a few hours later. But it was very, very sudden, and I certainly want to, I was able to visit with Dottie and the family, want to offer anything that we can do. Ray had really come on the scene and did a lot of work to benefit. He was very active in our bi-state fishing rodeo, had worked his way up the ladder to become the exalted ruler. And of course, Dottie also holds a position as a female in the organization.
And you and I had done a little work with him back when you got into Frank's.
Well,
you remember that?
Yeah, I bought Frank's Liquor Store. I stopped in to buy 2 beers, one for me and one for you, and you were just 2 blocks away.
You had called me and said, come see, the beer's waiting.
And Mervyn, Mervyn Pete was the bartender, and he pulled me off aside. He says, you need to buy the place. I said, I came in here to buy 2 Coors Lights. He said, no, but you need to buy the place. We heard somebody was looking at it, and Ray wants to, he just had enough. Ray Nolan was the owner at the time. So by the time you got there, I had already agreed to buy it.
We were writing a contract on a cocktail napkin when I walked in. He took the books out. We looked at the books. We did all the due diligence that night in the back room.
He turned it over to us that night.
You had to lock the door to leave.
That's the only time I ever had a key to the place. Never had a key to the place. Somebody was saying, yeah, Bobby, you were very lucky. Sheila Carrier every day would take care of making the deposits at Frank's, at Toby's Little Lodge, and at Toby's Country Corner. I had 3 places going at that time. And Sheila was trusted with every dollar, and I never had a key to any one of those. They said, well, why didn't you have a key? Because I said, if somebody broke in, they'd be calling me to go over middle of the night. I didn't want to be interrupted. What's he?
Castelo was the other side of 3.
Okay.
And he's making fun of us,
so
too.
Anyhow, I had forgot. Well, I talked about it, but I forgot this morning. But that's a good little story. That's how I came into owning that place, over buying a bottle of beer.
So our condolences to the Ray Nolan family.
And then Tom Cahanan also passed away.
Correct.
And he was 84 years old. And of course, when I say Tom Cahanan, I can see DC Motors, because he was a fixture there for close to 50 years. And he had 2 of his daughters who were very good workers that worked for our insurance agency companies. And I'm speaking of Libby Cahanan Fizette and Arlene Bellard. His 2 daughters, both of them died while they were working for our
Passed
firm.
away young, one from cancer, one I think with a heart issue.
And while I was at the Tom Cahanan wake, Benny Ripon, who works for that would be Benny works Sabille